Don't you ever question me about my job! Who are you to tell me what to do?
The emergency room never truly slept. Even in the quietest hours of the night, there were always machines beeping softly, stretchers rolling across the floor, and nurses whispering urgent instructions to one another. But tonight was not quiet. Tonight the ER felt like a storm. Paramedics rushed through the sliding doors with a teenage boy on a stretcher. His shirt was soaked with blood, and his breathing came in weak, uneven gasps. "Car accident," one paramedic shouted. "Severe abdominal trauma." Nurses immediately surrounded the stretcher. Among them was Rita. Rita was known throughout the hospital as one of the most skilled nurses in the emergency department. She was calm under pressure. Her hands were steady even when lives hung by a thread. She quickly checked the boy's pulse. "Weak. Too weak. Blood pressure dropping," she said. Her voice was firm but controlled. She adjusted the line while another nurse prepared medication. "Get me another saline bag," Rita said. The room moved quickly around her. But just as the team began stabilizing the patient, the doors opened again. Chief Surgeon Dr. Jeon Kwan-soo walked in. His reputation filled the room before he even spoke. He was brilliant. No one could deny that. But he was also feared. Nurses avoided eye contact when he entered. Interns straightened their posture immediately. Dr. Jeon glanced at the patient, barely acknowledging the team working around him. "What's the situation?" he asked sharply. "Severe internal bleeding," Rita answered. "We're stabilizing before imaging." Dr. Jeon examined the monitor for only a few seconds before giving a quick order. "Administer 20 milligrams of epinephrine." The room paused. Rita's eyes moved quickly across the patient's chart. Something didn't feel right. The boy's heart rate was already unstable. That dosage could make things worse. Rita hesitated. Not because she wanted to challenge him, but because the patient's life was at stake. Carefully, she spoke. "Doctor, I think we should confirm the labs before that dosage." The room went silent. Everyone knew what that moment meant. Because Dr. Jeon did not like being questioned. Dr. Jeon slowly turned toward Rita. The look in his eyes was cold. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 5 years, Rita replied calmly. "Then you should know better." His voice grew louder. "You are a nurse. I am the surgeon." Rita kept her tone respectful. "I understand, doctor. But his vitals suggest the dosage could." Before she could finish the sentence, Dr. Jeon grabbed her. His hand shot forward and tangled into her hair. He pulled her head backward. Hard. A gasp spread through the room. The interns froze. The other nurses stood in shock. The patient monitor continued its desperate beeping. "Do not question me," Dr. Jeon said coldly. Rita felt pain shoot through her scalp. Her eyes watered, but she refused to cry. "Not here. Not in front of everyone." Slowly, she lifted her hand and gently removed his grip from her hair. She said nothing. Instead, she turned back toward the patient. Because at that moment, the boy on the stretcher mattered more than her humiliation. "Prepare the imaging room," she told another nurse quietly. Her composure shocked everyone. But behind the glass wall outside the emergency room, someone had witnessed everything. Standing outside the ER was a man few people in the hospital recognized. But the city knew his name. Han Seung-jun. Tall. Quiet. Observant. He wore a simple black coat, but the aura around him was impossible to ignore. Officially, Han Seung-jun owned several successful businesses, shipping companies, investment firms, logistics networks. Unofficially, his influence ran far deeper. Tonight, he had come to the hospital because his driver had been injured during an altercation. Hospitals were not places Han liked to visit. Too much weakness. Too much fear. But as he waited outside the ER, his attention had been drawn to the chaos inside. And then he saw it. The surgeon grabbing the nurse's hair. The humiliation. The silence of everyone who watched. Han Seung-jun's expression did not change. But something cold settled in his chest. He continued watching. Not the surgeon. The nurse. He noticed how she reacted. No shouting. No tears. No panic. She simply continued saving the patient. That kind of strength was rare. Han Seung-jun spoke quietly to the man standing beside him. Who is she? His assistant checked a tablet. Nurse Rita. One of the senior ER nurses. Han Seung-jun looked back at the glass window. Interesting. The next morning, Rita was called into the administrative office. She already suspected why. When she entered the room, 3 hospital executives were waiting. Dr. Jeon sat calmly at the table. A printed report lay in front of them. One administrator cleared his throat. Nurse Rita, a complaint has been filed regarding your conduct during last night's emergency case. Rita remained standing. What kind of complaint? Dr. Jeon leaned back in his chair. Insubordination, he said. The administrator continued reading. It states that you aggressively challenged a surgeon's authority and disrupted emergency treatment. Rita felt anger rise inside her chest. But she kept her voice steady. That report is false. Dr. Jeon smiled slightly. You raised your voice. You questioned my medical decision in front of interns. I questioned a dosage that could have killed the patient, she replied. Silence filled the room. The administrators exchanged uncomfortable looks. Finally, one of them spoke. Until the matter is reviewed, you will be placed on administrative leave. 3 months. No pay. No access to the hospital. They slid another document across the table. A settlement agreement, the administrator said. If you sign this, the matter ends quietly. Rita stared at the paper. This was their plan. Silence her. Protect the hospital's reputation. She slowly pushed the document back. I will not sign it. That evening, Rita sat alone in her small apartment. The silence felt heavier than the hospital ever had. Her nursing badge rested on the table. 5 years of work. 5 years of dedication. And now it was being taken away because she refused to stay silent. Her cousin Da arrived shortly after. Da worked as a paralegal and had always been Rita's biggest supporter. What happened? Da asked. Rita explained everything. The hair pulling. The report. The suspension. Da's eyes widened. They did what? They want me to sign a settlement. And you said no? Rita nodded. Da leaned forward. Good. But if I fight this, I might lose everything. Da shook her head. No. If you don't fight, they win. Rita looked down at her hands. She had spent years helping strangers survive their worst moments. Now she was facing her own. Finally, she spoke quietly. I didn't become a nurse to be treated like this. Da smiled slightly. Then we fight. Across the city, in a quiet office overlooking the skyline, Han Seung-jun watched a video playing on his laptop. The ER footage. The exact moment Dr. Jeon grabbed Rita's hair. He paused the video. Then picked up his phone. Secure the original footage, he said calmly. before the hospital deletes it. Because in this city, powerful men protected their own. But Han Seung-jun had just chosen a side. And the hospital had no idea what was coming. Power in the city did not always appear in loud ways. Sometimes it moved quietly, through private calls, secured servers, and invisible influence. That same night Rita decided to fight the hospital. A team of technicians working for Han Seung-jun accessed the hospital's internal network. Security cameras recorded everything in the emergency room. But hospitals often controlled what the public was allowed to see. Footage could disappear. Files could be edited. Records could be altered. Han Seung-jun already expected that. Which was why he acted before anyone else could. Within hours, his people located the original recording from the ER hallway camera and the interior camera above the trauma bed. The files were downloaded, copied, encrypted, backed up 3 times. Han Seung-jun sat in his office watching the footage. He watched the moment Rita hesitated before speaking. He watched Dr. Jeon turn toward her. And then he watched the surgeon grab her hair. The room went silent in the video exactly as it had that night. Han Seung-jun leaned back in his chair slowly. His assistant stood nearby. The hospital will try to erase it, the assistant said. They will, Han Seung-jun replied. But they won't succeed. He paused the screen on Rita's face. Despite the humiliation, she had continued helping the patient. That impressed him more than anything else. Find the best lawyer in the city, he said calmly. Send the footage to him. 2 days later, Rita received an unexpected phone call. She was sitting in her apartment reviewing hospital policies with DA when her phone rang. Hello. Good afternoon, a calm voice said. This is Attorney Kim Dun. Rita exchanged a confused look with her cousin. I'm sorry, she said carefully. I didn't contact a lawyer yet. I know. The lawyer paused before continuing. But someone asked me to represent you. Rita frowned. Who? I'm afraid I cannot reveal that. DA leaned closer, listening. What kind of case are we talking about? Rita asked. A strong one. The lawyer invited her to his office the next day. When Rita arrived, the office was elegant and quiet. Attorney Kim Dun was known for handling extremely powerful clients. She felt nervous just sitting across from him. He placed a small flash drive on the table. Watch this. Rita plugged it into the laptop beside her. The video began playing. The emergency room appeared on screen. Then the moment happened. Dr. Jeon grabbing her hair. The humiliation. The silence. Her breath caught in her chest. This, she whispered. This is the original footage, the lawyer said. Rita slowly looked up. How did you get this? Kim Dun folded his hands. Someone believed you deserved justice. The lawyer advised patience. First, they built the legal case. Witness statements were collected. Medical records were reviewed. Then the video was released to a respected journalist. The impact was immediate. Within hours, the footage spread across the internet. People watched it in disbelief. A chief surgeon pulling a nurse's hair in the middle of an emergency procedure. The public reaction was explosive. News outlets began reporting the story. Social media flooded with comments. Many nurses across the country shared their own experiences of being mistreated in hospitals. Rita's name quickly became known. But attention was not always comfortable. Reporters tried to contact her. Former hospital staff reached out privately. Some colleagues supported her openly. Others avoided her entirely. The hospital responded with a carefully written statement. They claimed the video lacked context. They insisted Rita had provoked the incident. They promised a full internal investigation. But the damage was already done. Because the public had seen the truth. And someone behind the scenes was making sure that truth stayed visible. As the case grew larger, the pressure increased. Dr. Jeon's legal team began contacting witnesses. Some nurses suddenly felt afraid to testify. One intern received an anonymous message warning him to stay out of hospital politics. DA noticed something strange. The intimidation stopped almost as quickly as it started. Witnesses who had been pressured suddenly reported silence. No more calls. No more threats. Rita did not understand why. But across the city, Han Seung-jun had already handled the situation. He had met with a few people privately. No violence. No shouting. Just a quiet reminder that interfering with witnesses would create very serious problems. After that meeting, no one bothered Rita's witnesses again. But Rita still had no idea who was protecting her. The courthouse steps were crowded on the day of the preliminary hearing. Reporters waited near the entrance. Cameras flashed as Rita arrived with her lawyer. She kept her head down, trying to avoid attention. As the crowd moved, someone stepped forward from the side. A tall man in a dark coat. Rita recognized him immediately. He was the man she had seen in the hospital hallway the night of the incident. Han Seung-jun. He approached calmly. "You're handling the attention well," he said. Rita studied his face. "You're the one who sent the lawyer." He didn't deny it. "I helped," he said simply. "Why?" He looked at the courthouse doors for a moment. "Because what happened to you was wrong." Rita crossed her arms. "You don't even know me." Han Seung-jun's voice remained quiet. "I know enough." There was no arrogance in his tone. No expectation of gratitude. Just certainty. For the first time since the case began, Rita felt something unusual. Not fear. Not pressure. But the strange comfort of knowing someone powerful had chosen to stand on her side. And this quiet alliance was about to change both of their lives. The hospital board hearing was held in a large conference hall that normally hosted medical conferences and charity events. But today, the room felt different. Tense. Cold. Rows of chairs were filled with administrators, lawyers, journalists, and medical staff. The case had become too public to ignore. What had started as a single incident in the emergency room had now turned into a national conversation about workplace abuse in hospitals. At the center of it all sat Rita. She wore a simple navy suit. Her hair was neatly tied back. She looked calm. But inside, her heart was beating fast. Across the room sat Dr. Jeon Kwan-soo. His posture was confident, almost arrogant. His legal team sat beside him, whispering quietly. They still believed they could control the outcome. After all, he was one of the hospital's most valuable surgeons. A man who had brought prestige and funding to the institution. Many people still wanted to protect him. The board chair cleared his throat. This hearing will determine whether disciplinary action is required following the incident in the emergency department. Dr. Jeon's lawyer stood first. He walked confidently to the center of the room. "Members of the board," he began smoothly, "my client was under immense pressure during a life-threatening emergency. Unfortunately, a nurse repeatedly challenged his authority in front of junior staff." He glanced briefly toward Rita. In a stressful moment, there may have been a misunderstanding. Rita listened quietly. Her lawyer, Kim Dunn, remained seated. Waiting. Because he knew something the room did not yet know. When it was Rita's turn to speak, the room became very quiet. She walked to the center of the room slowly. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she spoke. "I have worked in emergency medicine for 5 years." Her voice was steady. "I have seen people die. I have seen families break down in hallways. And every day I tried to do my job with respect. She paused. But respect goes both ways. Her lawyer stood and connected a laptop to the screen behind her. Members of the board, Kim Dun said calmly, we would like to present the unedited footage from the emergency room. The screen lit up. The video began playing. Everyone watched. The chaos of the ER. The injured patient. Rita calmly working. Then Dr. Jeon turning toward her. And finally, the moment. His hand grabbing her hair. Pulling her head back. The entire room gasped. Even some of Dr. Jeon's supporters looked stunned. Because the footage showed something undeniable. Not stress. Not confusion. But clear abuse of power. Dr. Jeon's lawyer quickly stood. This footage could be manipulated. Kim Dun interrupted calmly. It has been verified by 3 independent digital forensic analysts. Silence fell over the room. Dr. Jeon's confident expression finally began to crack. The hearing continued for another hour. Witnesses spoke. Interns described the fear they felt that night. Other nurses explained how Dr. Jeon often treated staff harshly. Then the board members left the room to deliberate. The waiting felt endless. Rita sat quietly beside her lawyer. Across the room, Dr. Jeon paced nervously. For the first time, the powerful surgeon looked uncertain. Finally the board returned. The chairwoman spoke firmly. After reviewing the evidence, the board has reached a decision. The room went silent. Dr. Jeon Kwan-soo is suspended immediately pending full termination review. Gasps spread across the room. She continued. The hospital will also face investigation for attempted evidence tampering. Journalists immediately began typing on their phones. The story was already spreading. Rita felt a wave of emotion rush through her chest. Relief. Exhaustion. And quiet victory. For weeks she had stood alone against a powerful system. And she had won. Later that evening, Rita stood outside the courthouse steps again. But this time, the crowd felt different. Supporters approached her. Nurses thanked her. Some even hugged her. You stood up for all of us, one woman said. After the crowd slowly dispersed, Rita noticed someone standing across the street. Han Seung-jun. He had watched everything quietly. Just like he had the first night. Rita walked toward him. You never told me it was you, she said. Han tilted his head slightly. Told you what? That you saved my case. He shrugged slightly. You saved it. I would never have won without that footage. He looked at her calmly. You deserve the truth. Rita studied him carefully. You didn't have to help me. Han Seung-jun was silent for a moment. Then he said something honest. I wanted to. For the first time, Rita noticed something different in his expression. Not power. Not control. But something softer. Something real. Months passed. Rita returned to work. But this time, it was at a different hospital. One that valued her courage. Her story had inspired many people. Hospitals across the country began reviewing workplace policies. Training programs changed. And many nurses finally felt heard. But the biggest change in Rita's life was not her career. It was the man who kept appearing quietly beside her. Han Seung-jun never demanded her attention. He never tried to control her life. Instead, he simply showed up. Sometimes with dinner. Sometimes with quiet support after long shifts. Their connection grew slowly. Naturally. Until one evening, while walking along the river in the city, Han stopped. I have faced many dangerous situations in my life, he said. But asking you this might be the hardest. Rita laughed softly. What is it? He looked at her seriously. Will you marry me? Rita stared at him for a moment. Then she smiled. Yes. Their wedding was small, private, peaceful. Nothing like the chaos that first brought them together. Years later, Rita would sometimes think back to that terrible night in the emergency room. The humiliation, the anger, the fight for justice. And she would realize something strange. The worst moment of her life had also led her to the person who changed it forever. Sometimes cruelty begins a battle. But sometimes, it also begins a love story.